I'm recording this little intro bit after I've already recorded the entire video because I'm a weirdo. I try not to commit to one side of the argument of how the Celtics should go about their future, whether they should be more aggressive or more conservative. I'm just trying to paint both sides of the picture, I guess. If it sounds like I'm favoring towards one side, that wasn't my intent, but it might have happened anyway. Also, if you have an opinion on how they should go about their future that I didn't think of, which I'm sure you do because you guys know what you're talking about, feel free to let me know in the comments. So my Celtics got their asses kicked by the Atlanta Hawks pretty handily last night. I think it was 15 points or whatever. Jaylen Brown had himself a nice game, so that's cool. But looking at that loss for the Celtics, I don't know, it made me start to feel all philosophical or some crap. So then I was thinking about this team's future and the situation they're in right now, and I'm just are they wasting an opportunity here by not being more aggressive with their Brooklyn picks, which are great trade assets, or are they making the right decision to just kind of lay back and be a bit more conservative about this whole getting to the next level sort of thing? Because in my opinion, the Celtics are kind of on a similar level to the Wizards and the Raptors, in the sense of I'm not really surprised if any one of those three teams beats each other in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Wizards could beat the Celtics, Celtics could beat the Wizards. I don't know why I just said Rizzards. It's kind of like RZA from the Wu-Tang Clan. The Raptors could beat any one of those two. I wouldn't be surprised, I really wouldn't. I don't think there's much separation between those three teams. Now Kyle Lowry being hurt is a thing, but that's whatever. So that's just how I feel about him at the moment. But I guess there was an opportunity at this deadline to go for someone like Jimmy Butler or Paul George, and they decided to just not do it, basically. And I can understand the rationale in not going crazy, because apparently the Pacers wanted 3 out of the 4 of Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Jaylen Brown, or Marcus Smart. I understand that might be a little too much for you. I would be willing to go with Jaylen Brown and a Brooklyn pick for Paul George, and probably something similar with Jimmy Butler, throw in some other first round picks you have or whatever. But while I say that, I could also see the counter argument of it's a stars driven league, If you want to go for a championship, if you want to really try to win this thing, you're going to need another top 10 or close to it player. You already have Isaiah Thomas, who's not too far away from the top 10. He might even be in there depending on who you're talking to. I don't think he's in there, but he's definitely top 15. And I think everyone would agree that Paul George as well as Jimmy Butler are in that same area as well. And it's nice to have guys like Jay Crowder and Avery Bradley and Al Horford, even though he's been sucking lately. Two-way players who can do things, but you need the takeover guy. And you got one in Isaiah Thomas, and you're probably going to need another one if you really want to go for a championship here. That's just the reality of how it is, unless you're a 2011 Dallas Mavericks sort of deal. But still, we've seen a lot of significant players move lately, and the Celtics just weren't really there. DeMarcus Cousins, I get it in the sense of the guy can be kind of an ass. I understand that one. He just got into the technical, he's suspended for one game or whatever, and it hasn't been going super well for the Pelicans, so I can understand the rationale in Boogie. At least from a personality standpoint, the talent is definitely there. That is a takeover guy who, if his head's on straight and he's playing defense, he really could be the guy to take this team to the next level. But, everything I just said about his personality. But then there was also Nerlens Noel, and I'm just admitting I'm still a little upset about them not getting Nerlens Noel. The guy went for Justin Anderson and 2 second-round picks? Really? They've been having the corpse of Amir Johnson playing the power forward position this entire season, and Amir's a good locker room guy, and just last season he was pretty damn good on defense. It's dropped off this season, and the 2 best lineups the Celtics have rolled with this year have been with Amir Johnson not in the game. So, it's just kind of showing the impact or lack of impact he's having. I think Nerlens Noel is a similar player to Amir, he's just much better. Athletic, finishes around the rim well, grabs offensive rebounds, he's awesome on defense. I've talked about Nerlens Noel a lot here. I think the Celtics really missed an opportunity to grab a quality guy in Nerlens because they were just so hell-bent on getting Paul George. And I think that was a mistake because did anybody really think Paul George was going to get moved? Did anybody really think that was going to happen? I feel like that you could have just got a more guaranteed thing in Nerlens, and now the counter argument to Nerlens is like, okay, but you got to pay him like $20 million in restricted free agency. I mean, Nerlens is really freaking good. Why not? Not only that, but, you know, then you could say, okay, but you're not going to have any cap space to go for a free agent this summer. Personally, I don't like to put my eggs into the basket of free agency. So the way I look at it is, I can guarantee myself Nerlens Noel, who I think is just really freaking good. And I would rather have the guarantee of Nerlens Noel than the maybe of, like, Gordon Hayward. Also, do we know if Gordon Hayward would actually help you out more than Nerlens? Like, this team has an inside defense rebounding problem. They don't have a skilled perimeter players problem. Gordon Hayward is a skilled perimeter player. Not to mention, there's a logjam at his position if he were to show up with Jaylen Brown and Jay Crowder already. And yeah, I know you could play around with small ball 4 stuff, but it's just not ideal in my opinion. I think there's another thing that could be said for Nerlens playing the center and Al Horford maybe being a little too slow to play power forward, whatever it may be. But I do think they missed an opportunity with Nerlens. I really do believe that one. I think they were chasing a pipe dream when they could have guaranteed a really solid pickup. But of course, with the Brooklyn picks, the other side of this is like, you could just draft guys with these picks. I think sometimes people are overreacting a little bit or living in the moment a little too much towards, well, you got to trade these Brooklyn picks. You got to trade them for Jimmy Butler or Paul George. It would be awesome if you could do that, no doubt. But it's also like, if you get a high pick, there's a very good chance you're going to get a damn good player. I mean, Jaylen Brown's already looking good. He's been more aggressive lately. He's just more confident. I think his ball handling and his shooting have also improved from the top half of the season to where we are now. He's looking really damn comfortable playing significant NBA minutes. And of course, he's an athlete and all that good stuff. Like, if you have him and then you end up drafting like Markelle Fultz or whoever the hell else, like, that's looking really good for the future. But then those guys are going to take like 3 years. Al Horford's already like 30 years old, and depending on what day of the week it is, he looks like he's stuck in quicksand on both sides of the floor. And sometimes he looks awesome. It's, you know, it's whatever. Isaiah Thomas is like 27 or something, and given his size, the second he loses a half step, that's going to be trouble. So I understand the rationale of like wanting to do it now, but I also get like you have a lot of power with these Brooklyn picks. So there's two sides to this thing, no doubt. But I think another thing to talk about is the team you're competing with in the Eastern Conference, the Cleveland Cavaliers. This, of course, is going to influence how you feel. I mean, if the Cavaliers were just simply not as good, there's a chance they would have already traded for one of these Brooklyn picks away to get someone who can take them over the top right now. When you're dealing with LeBron James, who, when this thing is all said and done, could be the best player ever, or at least number 2 behind Michael Jordan if he's not already, I can understand wanting to get that guy, because you could trade for Paul George, give up Jaylen Brown, go for a right now move, and you're still not good enough to beat LeBron James and the Cavs. It's the harsh reality of the NBA. Whereas if you drafted a guy like Markelle Fultz and he ends up being the top dude, then you look at it and you go, alright, he's going to be really good in about 3 years, LeBron's going to be older, at that point maybe they're a little more vulnerable. But then we get back to the whole, well, now Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford are too frickin' old. Although, I'm pretty confident Horford will be too old. Isaiah's probably still going to be able to hang on, but he might not be as impactful as he is right now. So yeah, I mean, I'm going in a whole lot of directions here because I think there's rationale in being like, what the hell, guys, why aren't you making moves? But then also being like, I kind of get it. In a perfect world, frickin' Kevin Durant signed with you last summer, and then you could just unload these picks at crazy rates because you know you got the top guy and you can surround people around him. Unfortunately, you don't have that, so yeah, I think there's definitely a good and a bad, or maybe not a good and a bad, maybe like there's risk involved in whatever way they want to do this. Personally, just based on this last deadline, I think they really missed something by not getting Nerlens. I would not have moved 3 of the 4 of Jalen, Avery, Marcus Smart, or Crowder for Paul George. I have to assume the Jimmy Butler package would have been similar. I understand not wanting to do that, and I do think if they end up getting the number 1 pick once the lottery is done, then I think the idea of a Paul George or a Jimmy Butler trade could be a bit more real. I think you have to pay attention to Paul George apparently wanting to go to the Lakers. I mean, it would be stupid of you to trade the first pick for a guy who's only going to be there for a year. Who knows, man? I'm still upset about Nerlens, though. I'm really upset about that one, I'm not going to lie to you. Now, who knows? Maybe they hit some home runs in free agency and then this thing is fine, or maybe they don't really hit any home runs in free agency and they're still pretty good next year towards the top of the East, but we all know they don't have a real chance against the Cavs. Even if the high pick ends up being awesome. Whatever the hell I said in this entire video, just roll with that.